This is my 6th Acid Archives video that I've done, which is a video thread put on by Dom from the YouTube channel Seeking a Thread, where he asks people to take an album from their collection that is included in this book, The Acid Archives by Patrick Lundberg. I have the 2nd edition. It says The Ultimate Guide to Underground Sounds, 1965 to 1982. And he asked people to pick an album from the book, talk about the album, and then read the entry that's written about that album. And so that's what I'm going to do. The Wailers, this album specifically, is on page 346 of the book. These guys are from Tacoma, Washington, which is only a few miles away in Pierce County, where I grew up, was raised and grew up. So I heard these guys on the radio forever. My mother's from San Francisco, but all her friends who grew up in Seattle when they were teenagers, it was all about the Wailers, Sonics, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Mary Lee Rush, and all those type of bands. If you just type the name The Wailers into Google or Discogs, you're going to come up with a random Jamaican band. Apparently, when they made the name The Wailers, they never did a copyright. So a few years later, when Bob Marley had his backing band and he named them the Wailers, he did the copyright. So subsequent tours for the real Wailers had to be known as the Fabulous Wailers on those different tours, and that was the title of their first LP from 1959. The Fabulous Wailers are the first grunge band in history. People could argue other bands, but this is it. Their song, The Tall Cool One, and the song Louie Louie puts them on the map. This album came out in 1966 on the Etiquette label, and it's a label that the two of the band members actually owned. After they got out of their first album's contract, they started Etiquette, and they put out their own albums. This is the last album that they would put out on Etiquette, and this is their 5th album. Over the 6 years, their personnel and their music changed. So personnel, Ron Gardner on vocals and sax, Neil Anderson guitar, Kent Morell organ and vocals. He kind of sounds like Roy Orbison. So when you hear some of these tracks and you hear Roy Orbison, it's a better version of Roy Orbison, and that is Kent Morell, founding member. John Buck Ormsby, he played bass. Him and Kent are the ones who started Etiquette Records. And then Dave Rowland on the drums. So that was 1965 when this group got together and they started recording, and their music's changed. This is like the middle period of the Wailers. They started off garage with their first few albums, and then they kind of got soft from their last album, Wailers Everywhere. And with this album, they changed, and that change probably comes from the last Sonics album, which was the first Sonics album, came out in 1964. This album was being recorded at the same time the Sonics' 2nd album, Boom, was being recorded, and two members here, Kent and Bruce, were producing the Sonics' 2nd album, and obviously this label would then release that. After the Wailers would break up, Kent would continue on with the reunion tours with the Fabulous Wailers, and Buck would join the Sonics as their manager until his death in 2016 on his 75th birthday. Here is a photo of Buck and I about 2014 at the Roxy on Sunset Boulevard, and it was at a Sonic show. The other guy is Ken Deans, who I know from Seattle and here. He lives here in LA, and he was kind of affected by the fire. He was one of the managers of Mother Love Bone and Alice in Chains before they got signed to major labels a bunch of years later. Okay, the music. They only recorded 4 songs that were original. The rest, they were all covers. Out of Our Tree. This is probably their best song that they've put out. Good fuzzy guitar, very garage. This was their first single from this album. There's only 2 singles. This is the single from the album and arguably the best Wailers song. In 1990, the Mummies covered it. Mercy Mercy, that is a cover. It's got a really good guitar solo. Hang on Sloopy, it's good. It's funny. When I decided I was going to do this video, and I've had this version for many years. Recently got this original mono, and I went and just streamed the tracks, and they're good. I liked it. Out of Our Tree, Mercy Mercy, they sounded good, but it wasn't that great. And I'm like, why is this in the Acid Archives book? And then when I sat down in front of the turntable and played it at 3.5. and was doing other things, it was all right. But it wasn't until I turned it up to 8 or 9, my stereo, and cranked it, and it was great. The standard cover of Mercy Mercy is great with that guitar and that organ and that guitar solo. Hang on Sloopy, I thought was just kind of a cover. It's really good. I'm Down is a Beatles cover, and I didn't think it was a very good Beatles cover until I really turned it up, and it's great. I really like that version. It's a very garagey version of I'm Down. Unchained Melody, the second to last track on side 1, that's with Kent singing, and he sounds like Roy Orbison, and it is good. He's playing the organ and he's singing at the same time, and he's got a good voice. And listen to that track. I did not like it the first few times, and now it's one of the highlights.
Can do so.
Baby Don't Do It, that's an alright song. Side 2 is my favorite side. This is where it gets more garage. Excuse me. Dirty Robber, the first song, that is their second single from the album, and they first did this on their first album.
Well, I had a little girl who wasn't mean to me. I don't know how far
I Got Me, the second song, is the B-side from the Out of Our Tree single. Summertime is a cover, and they do a good version of it, especially louder. Little Sister it's all right. Hang Up. This is the second best track on the album. It was the B-side of the Dirty Robber single. And this track was on the Nuggets Volume 8, The Northwest. And now that I think about it, this song, with its fuzz guitar, with its gnarly vocals, very garage, this is the best song of the Wailers. Right here, Hang Up. I love this song, and it reminds me of Los Saicos from Peru. A year earlier, they did the song Demolition, which is like, they heard the Beatles and like, oh my God, they made a punk band. They're the first punk band, but they do Demolition. This song, Hang Up, sounds very much like that. Here is Peru's Los Saicos doing a bit of Demolition.
Echemos abajo la estación de tren, 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 demoler, demoler.
It's great. I love that track. And now here's a little bit of the Wailers doing Hang Up. The last track on the album, Bama Llama Bama Lou, it's all right. It's as good as the name sounds. Bama Llama Bama Lou.
Bama Llama Bama Lou got a girl named Offender. They come for the great pretender. Got a girl named Offender. They come for the great pretender.
The first pressing is 1966. It was reissued later in 66 and also in 67. I have a version from 1987. There is an etiquette box that has the Sonics and a few different albums and includes this album. Mono is the pressing that you wanted. It came out in stereo, but it's a mono listener. Okay, the Acid Archives entry, 346. There's so many great albums in this. Okay, there's two entries. There's the Wailers Out of Our Tree, and then the Wailers Outburst. I'll probably do a video on the Wailers Outburst. It's got more psych leanings than this does. This is more of a garage type. Okay, so Wailers Out of Our Tree, 1966, Etiquette, ETALP 026, mono, purple label, thick cover, and a thick disc. And then it's also a stereo. After a transitional period that produced two rather disposable mid-60s albums, The Wailers and Company and Wailers Everywhere, the Wailers come roaring back with what must rank as their best album, Out of Our Tree. Close-in sound and structure to the classic first two LPs by their disciples, the Sonics, the Tacoma Elders, rock out magnificently in a successful marriage between their trademark greaser sound and the wild side of the mop top. Early kinks may spring to mind as long as one understands the Wailers were doing this stuff 5 years before the Kinks. The title track is a garage classic, and there's a good revisit to band staple Dirty Robber, but the track most likely to blow minds today is Hang Up, an amazingly raw, fuzz 3/4 that could be inserted onto any Back from the Grave volume. As on the Sonic LPs, a number of covers from the band's live set round out the album, including a couple oldies valleys that break the flow a bit. On the upside, the versions of I'm Down and Baby You Don't Do It are among the best ever. The compressed live in the studio etiquette sound does the Wailers great service with organ and sax shoring the northwestern wall of sound. That was written by Patrick Lundberg. I agree with him that he was pretty much spot on. This isn't Psych. This is a good album with a few standout garage tracks by an iconic proto-punk band. The album sounds better when you turn it up. The tracks Out of Our Tree and Hang Up are the standout tracks of this album, and side 2 is the best. What do you think of the Wailers? Did you like the snippets of the sound that we played? Like and subscribe. I will see you on the next video, and that's it. Video's done.
Wow!